is immigration currently the most pressing issue facing the country? To debate this, I am joined by the leader of the Heritage Party, it's David Curtin, and the former Labour MP, Stephen Pound. Chaps, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. David, I will start with you. Is immigration the biggest problem facing Britain?
It's a huge problem. I mean, there are many problems facing the country, but this is something that I know lots of people are very, very concerned with around the country, outside the mainstream media bubble, who would pretend that immigration is all good. It's not. We have unprecedented illegal immigration across the Channel and associated problems with that. There simply aren't enough council houses and homes to put them all in. So they're going into hotels. And of course, we're spending £8 million a day on housing illegal migrants. But that's only a small amount of the problem, because legal migration is spiraling out of control as well, because of all the extra programs, what I call the fake Conservative government have put in place to bring in more students, more people to work here, even students dependent. So we have 1.2 million people coming to the country legally last year, which is unprecedented, which means 600,000 net coming to the country. It's simply unsustainable, and people are feeling the pressure and effects on it, which is why it's a big concern.
OK, so I'll throw the same question over to you, Stephen, former Labour MP. Is immigration the biggest issue facing ordinary Brits, do you think? Should it be?
Yeah, nowhere near. But can I first of all just say what an absolute delight it is to see David Curtin again. He and I once debated each other at Greenford High School. I think it was the GLA you were standing for, or Castle Point in Essex or somewhere.
OK, I'm going to stop you there, Stephen. Yeah, Nobody cares, right? Is immigration the biggest issue facing Britain or not?
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Right.
It's increased, and you're quite right. You've said it's increased, but the reality is that the issues that affect most people, purely and simply, are the cost of living, the cost of energy, the cost of staying alive. Look, the figure that David just gave you represents 1% of the population of this country. So his net migration figure is 600,000. It's 1%. That's not the end of the world. Look, I think the problem that most people have is, first of all, it's the optics. The idea of these boats rocking up on Dover Beach looks terrible, and it looks as though we have no control. It is not just about immigration. It's about national security. It's about the people who may be coming there. So at the moment, immigration numerically is not a huge problem, but it's who is coming over. And also, Patrick, also the concentration in specific areas. And I think that's an issue that goes right the way back to the Windrush generation in Brixton, the Irish in Kilburn, and so on and so on, the Huguenots in Spitalfields.
Yeah, before I throw it back to David, so Stephen, could you rank it for me then, right? What are the top 3 issues for you facing Britain then? Go on.
Right. Cost of living, public safety, and the health service.
OK, great. All right, David, I'll throw it to you, because some people might say, David, that immigration feeds into a lot of that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, absolutely. It knocks on, and it has a knock-on effect of all these other issues. I mean, Stephen says, OK, it's only 1% of the population coming over every year. But that means in a decade, if it's sustained at that level, that means the population increases by 10% in a decade. And we're simply not building enough homes for people. I don't want more homes built anyway, because the country is full, and I don't want to destroy the countryside and the historic character of our towns and cities to build lots more homes for people who are coming over that we don't need to come over, because we should be training our own young people to do the jobs that need to be done in this country in the first place, let alone the effect on health services, the pressure on dentists, on GPs, on hospitals, on education, and everything else. And transport is more crowded. So, it's just out of control. We need to put strict cap on legal migration and stop the boats coming from France to solve this problem.
And before I throw it back to Stephen, David, what is your cap on legal migration?
Yeah, I would say, well, at the moment, we have 100,000 students, bring that down to 100,000. We have 200,000 permanent work visas, bring that down to 100,000. And that would cut legal migration in half at a stroke.
Can I just say why that doesn't work?
It's an answer. Go on, Stephen.
It doesn't. Look, what happens if you have another Ukraine, you have another Hong Kong? What do you have a situation like that? When that happens, all your figures go out of the window. You can't, what you need to do is not talk about numbers. No politician can ever say that we're going to reach a certain number. Then the minute you hit that number, some Afghan interpreter is told you can't come in because we've hit the number. It doesn't work.
Okay.
What we've got to do is get control of the situation, get control of the processing the people, weed out the wrong uns, and actually let those people in. You know what we've always done in this country, which is be a proud multicultural
All right,
nation.
Stephen, I'll stay with you on this. Do you think that issues that we are seeing now with overcrowding in the NHS, whether that's to do with actual hospitals or getting GP appointments, whether it's to do with housing as well, for example, education system having to find 213,000, according to Suella Braverman, new school places by 2026, I think it was she said there, and those children, a lot of them, 1 in 5 now born with foreign-born mothers. Do you not maybe think that a lot of the other issues facing Britain could be solved if we solved our immigration problem, Stephen?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, let's face it, if we took all the foreign-born patients out of the NHS and imagined it with taking all the foreign-born doctors and nurses out of the NHS, would you be better off? Would you be worse off? I don't know. There's school places, there's vacancies in school places in my part of the world, in West London, because huge numbers of the Poles are going back to Poland. So I think the problem is the minute we try to have a zero-sum numbers game, we get into real trouble. I think where I do agree with David is firstly, there is an issue of concentration. And there's an issue of integration. And I think we need to address those. We don't want to end up like France, where they try to put everybody in a pressure cooker and then it explodes. But we've got to actually get control of this situation. It's not about the numbers. It's about the way we process those people.
That's an interesting point, David, that I want to pick up on with you, because it's easy to talk about numbers. The numbers are important, right? You can't deny that numbers are important. That's the way the country works. But there is something more than that, isn't there? There is culture, there is integration, there is a way of life, there is a shared history or lack of now. Is that a problem with immigration, do you think?
Yeah, it is, especially at the moment. You have people coming, say, from Albania. You have people coming from other countries in the Middle East who have very, very different cultures from us. And a lot of them, and the majority of them coming over in the small boats, are not coming because they are genuine migrants who are fleeing for their lives. They're economic migrants. They're not genuine asylum seekers. They're almost all military-aged men coming over, and they're here. Often they disappear into the black economy when they get here, or they're happy to sit in a 4-star hotel and get rewarded for coming over. They wouldn't come over if they had to go and fend for themselves, for example. So if they are genuine asylum seekers coming over seeking asylum, they would be with their families. They would be families with children and women as well, not just all military-aged men. But again, numbers are important, and the legal migration of 1.2 million gross is simply unsustainable, and that could easily be reduced by half if you put strict caps on work and student visas, as I've said, and that needs to be done.
Now, Stephen, I'll give the final word to you on this. Can I ask you whether or not you feel as though we are being asked to take part in some kind of giant Ponzi scheme as a nation, really, which is that if we have an amount of immigrants that arrive every single year, we know that our GDP will look a bit better on a spreadsheet. But per capita, we're worse off, aren't we?
No, hang on a second. I mean, the Ponzi scheme is an interesting idea. There's a huge amount of evidence, I'm thinking of particularly the Cambridge Economics one, which says the first generation of immigrants to this country contribute massively. They work damn hard. The first generation creates the money, the second generation looks after it, and the third generation spends it. So, there's a certain amount of evidence about that. But look, as far as I'm concerned, we actually should be getting a grip on this and sorting it out. Where I do agree vehemently with David is that we should be training our own people. And the idea that so many companies use immigration as an excuse for doing nothing in the way of apprenticeships, that's for the birds. We've got to get a grip on it. And so let's forget about the numbers. And I think also David's anecdotal evidence about people being of military age, I mean, I'd like to see the stats on that, because I don't actually see that on the drill down. So look, let's get a control over who we've got coming in here. But let's not demonize, an entire group of people, particularly, those for whom this country is a beacon and for whom, this country provides a great hope for them. And let's face it, we do pretty well out of them in many cases.
No, indeed. Look, both of you, thank you very much. Great to have you both on the show. Fantastic way to kickstart this hour. That is David Curtin there, as leader of the Heritage Party, always a popular guest on this channel, and the former Labour MP, Stephen Pound.